Welcome, Success Grid Nation, to this episode of the Success Grid podcast with your host, Hussein Talib. In this episode, I have with me Whitney Stowell to talk about how to build your company's differentiators to win big in business. This is a very important topic for every entrepreneur and business owner. Whitney Stowell is CEO of Cribworks, a lead DC-based strategic management consultancy firm that partners with leaders to transform organizational sales growth. With 15 years plus years in sales, business development, and partnership development. Whitney integrates strategic insights, data driven processes, industry expertise, and AI to help businesses overcome their most critical challenges to optimize their avenues for growth. So, Whitney, welcome to this episode of the Success Secret podcast.
Oh, Hussein, thank you very much for having me, and I'm really happy to be here.
Awesome to have you here. I'm glad to talk about this subject. It's very important thing to talk about building the company differentiators because I'm sure that every business or entrepreneur always thinking, how should I differentiate myself? Is it the pricing? Is it this? Is it that? So this is a very important thing, especially now with a lot of competitiveness in the marketplace wherever you go, especially online. So we are going to deep. We're gonna have a deep dive into that. But first, because this is the Success Grade podcast, I want to know what is success to you and what do you think other people see or define success as, and you agree or disagree with.
So I think success, everyone's going to measure success differently to themselves, whether it's success personally, whether it's going to be success professionally. And, are you always moving forward in how you measure? Are you growing? Are you learning more? So I think are you learning, today? Are you going to learn something new tomorrow? So I think there's a way you learn to be successful, also down to, are you winning projects? If you're losing projects, are you learning from your mistakes? So I think success can be measured many different ways. It's how you interpret it as well. I think there's many different ways that you can look at it.
Definitely. So
Yeah.
now jumping into our subject matter, which is in business entrepreneurs, always I'm sure I'm the one that always thinking, what is the thing that I should be focusing on? How can I differentiate myself? There's a lot of competitiveness. It's a very like it's a brutal really out there, I guess you could say, right? So first of all, what do we mean that a business needs to be different, and does every business needs to be different in a way from other businesses?
So I think company differentiators is very critical because you want to look at, why you? And I think that's probably one of the hardest questions for a lot of companies to answer. It's like, why you? Why would a company want to do business with you? And that not only applies to your marketing, to your business development, to your internal conversations, to your branding, but what makes you unique that people actually want to have a conversation with you, build a relationship with you, start to trust you. And it's not because you've been in business for 30 years and you're very strong in the market, but what makes you unique, and build metrics behind that as well. So I think that's something that people just need to sit down and write down on a piece of paper, because if you do it in one market, there's probably other companies that do it too. Like really sit down and be like, why do people like us? And have conversations with the customers about that as well. Why do they choose you? Because you know what? Other potential clients probably want to hear those success stories as well.
Definitely. Also, success and maybe failures, because like when we are like going through business, I'm sure that there are multiple probably failures going through that road. It's not like always it's going to be roses, I guess, throughout the journey of that, I guess. So now, where is the, for example, the starting point for any business or entrepreneur to start looking, or the points, or let's say the elements or the framework from putting differentiators? Because a lot of people when starting businesses, they are always looking at the basic things in front of them, which is like basically pricing. This is one of the mostly talked about, I think, things that can businesses differentiate themselves from other businesses, right?
Correct. Yeah. I wouldn't say looking at pricing because you don't want to be driving down on pricing every single time. One area think is always great to look at is you got to talk with your customers, talk with your existing customers. Is it the relationship that is you're so strong? Is it your customer service? that you have, or is it your technical side? Is your engineering side? What makes you so strong in your relationships? I think that is always a great part to understand where you baseline your activities right now. If you have the best pricing, okay, great. Well, someone else is going to eventually figure that out, and that's not going to be a strong avenue for you. So look at what it is from a relationship business. We are in the relationship business. So like what makes you strong and really double down and really put metrics behind it and be like, oh, okay, we are so good at, we can get back to the customer in 30 minutes, or whatever it might be. So put some strong meat on the bone for that.
I think, like, for example, in the general example could be like, for example, I think Domino's Pizza maybe like deliver it within 30 minutes or so. If it's not 30 minutes, I guess it was free or something like that. So this is the kind of differentiator that are we are talking about. It's not that simple or clear differentiators that are clear to everyone. You need to think of an angle, and you do that like you talked about, you building some kind relationship with your customers, because they might give you the solution or the differentiator that you are looking for. If you cannot find it yourself, or the people that you are working with, your customer might give you the solution or the differentiator to build that, right? This is very
Yeah,
important.
no, that's exactly what it is. But you also want to be able to be building long-term relationships with them. So it's not just transactional, selling onesies and twosies. You're building long-term, deep relationships with them. So you want to understand where their weak points are, where their strong points are. So you can also really be able to be like, oh, I understand how I can consistently be able to help you achieve that pain point, because I can actually I can do that for you. And so the customer will always be able to, they'll want to call you. You want to make sure if there's a problem, the customer is always calling you because you have a differentiator that they need. But you just need to start understanding it, where it is. You need to be able to write it down, but you also need to be able to market it on your website, talk about it through social selling, but also having your sales team talk about it in the field as well. So that's just some points that you can actually focus on.
Yeah, definitely. Is it also about testing? Like, we could have some kind of a differentiator, but it could be a bad one. So how do we know and differentiate the bads from the good ones? Like, what do you think about this?
That's a really good one. One way is just to challenge it. It's like, oh, we've been in business for 30 years, and we're a women-owned small business or a minority-owned business that focuses on, we're a general contractor. And you can always ask the question, so what? Who else does it? You can do a quick Google search to see who else does it. There's probably a lot in the same area that do the exact same thing and probably doing just as much, if more, not more business. All right. Why are they going to call you versus calling them? Another way I always like to do it is I actually like go to a trade show, go to a convention, or a conference and walk up and down the rows and see, are they all selling the same thing? If they're very similar to your business, what makes them different? So do a competitive assessment. I always think competitive assessments are very good to see what separates you from everyone else, and how, if they have a differentiator, what would yours be, so people would actually see the difference between that company and your company.
That's very important. Now, do you think that are certain things in differentiation? Like, we know there is, for example, operations, marketing, sales, uh, people working in the business. So, for example, is it different from a solopreneur in general, from a business that has a certain amount of people or a team working on it? And like you talked about a little bit, and if you can expand on it, because you talked about it should be all across the board within the business. It's operations, marketing, sales department, all of these people that are in the business, they should basically be on the same page for the business differentiators and visions.
Yeah, it's definitely going to vary. It's definitely going to vary. If you're a solopreneur, you're not going to have the depth or the bench, I would say, compared to a medium-sized company or a large business. So it's definitely going to be a lot different. But if you're a startup, small business solopreneur, you need to really look at why they are investing in you. I mean, it is an emotional sale, but what makes you different? What can you provide that someone else might not be able to? What is your subject matter expertise? and really hone in on that. Like, what do you know about the market that you can provide that is very tailored and very tailored to the client that they need. If you're a medium-sized business, you're going to have a lot more competition with other competitors out there. What is it that is different? But if you're a large business, what do you provide that other companies might need? Is it anything from in the construction world, you have the bonding capacity. You might be able to have other things from you have subcontractors that can help you, be able to get projects to the end client. There's different ways to look at it, but it's all tailored to who you are and what the client needs. And it all comes down to talking to the client. So what might be a differentiator might be different than what the client actually sees.
Mm,
So
yeah.
it's that communication. It's that we all have to have communications with the end client, the ones who's actually cutting the check to us, paying the bills.
Definitely. So here we are talking about, I might think we are talking about, for example, the business of the story or the business of the owner, and also the messaging. They kind of they might be put them in the same bucket, let's say. So the messaging and the story to be aligned with each other, right? Do you think that's could be an
Yeah,
element of
Yeah,
this?
there definitely needs to be some alignment. And sometimes the end customer doesn't always know your full story because they've never listened or heard the whole story. So sometimes it's a communication, more of a transparent communication just to get to know them a little bit more. So sometimes you just need to hear it, be like, "Oh, I didn't know your company does all X, Y, and Z. Oh, we do have a gap in that area." So sometimes it just takes a little bit longer to be able to address it.
Yeah, cool. So, can you give us an example of a certain situation that happened with you?
Let's see. I would say one of the ones that we were talking at my last company, we were a lighting company, and we were talking about um we were in the Midwest, and the company didn't have the end client didn't have any money, and but there were clients that were leaving the town and leaving the area mainly because there was a security problem. So we talked about how lighting can really help you bring safety and security back, because you don't walk down a road unless the lights are on. You won't don't go into a parking garage unless the lights are on, because there's a sense of safety and sense of security. It's like, well, the lighting can actually help bring potential clients back into town, and it can actually help boost economic development. But the way we can do it is through basically a performance type contract called performance contracting. So we can actually pay back through through the utility savings. So we provided them a very unique way for them to actually be able to do a contract with us that other people weren't looking at, but we had to build a relationship with the end client to understand how we could actually do the business with them. So we understood the real pain points that the city was leaving. They were losing clients, but we really had to get down to, you know, how can we actually help them solve their lighting needs? How can we actually help bring people in? And so I think we ultimately were able to get to a contract, which was great. But came down to security and revitalizing the city for economic development.
That's a great example.
It's amazing how many people just take lighting for granted, but they realize like they wouldn't walk down a street without it being lit.
Yeah. Well, it could be a scary street if you are if its lights are out, there is a blackout. So that's
Yeah.
important. Yeah. So, across your career, did someone give you some kind of advice that was not so good advice, that was the worst advice that someone ever told you?
Oh, the worst advice that I've probably been told. Uh, the worst advice. I mean, I've definitely been told. Yeah, yeah. It was. I've been told that I I'm not going to be able to do it, and you should never think that you can do it. And that was by a former boss who he was trying to use it as a reverse psychology to try to motivate me, but the way that it was coming off was he was just trying to use that advice just to push me down.
Mm.
And the way that he said that was probably the worst advice I've ever been given. So yeah, that's probably the worst that I've been given.
Yeah, so do you think that advice has impacted you to actually propelled you to succeed at what you are doing right now?
Uh, I would say I look back at it and it definitely the I would say it definitely hit me pretty hard. I'll admit that when you're given bad advice from someone at a more senior level, you're usually like, all right, well, they must know what they're doing. They're getting paid more. They have a bigger budget. You should listen. But looking back, I had to take a second to realize that unfortunately there are bosses that don't know what they're doing all the time, and it's good to get proper mentorship and proper career coaching to actually be able to help you start to thrive. So I think that's one of the ways I had to mitigate and get myself out of there.
Yeah, definitely. Like because business generally it's tough as we mentioned, and you have to find these differentiator that we are talking about. So now, in speaking in differentiators, do you think there is some kind of broad differentiators, or can we like separate them on both or put them in categories like broad and narrow differentiators, or are there just one type of differentiators?
I look at and I'm actually speaking on myself and a team on this at a conference in May, but it's really there. I think there's company differentiators, but there's also differentiators when you're submitting like a bid or a proposal. You know, you have your company differentiators that are what makes you unique. But then when you're submitting a proposal or a bid, you know, what makes you unique to the customer in that bid. You know, so I think there's two different avenues that you can look at because that bid is very unique and tailored. Both of them are tailored, and you need to make them tailored. There's no, I wouldn't go generic because that can also tell me that you didn't spend much time really diving down to what makes your company unique. Doesn't matter what market you're in, SaaS, construction, retail, like put some effort behind it. That'd be my recommendation. But if you're going after a bid, how did you tailor you to the end customer? Yeah, how well do you know the end customer? And the end customers probably want to know how well they know you both. So you're very unique. And so that's what I recommend spending a lot of time on.
So, what do you think are the best ways or communications to interact with the customers and know about their pain? So they might, as we talked about, they might give you your differentiator as a business and as a person in the business or the owner as in the business. Because a lot of people talk about email marketing, social media, and you mentioned those. But what, in your opinion, is the best way to do that?
I'd say the best is the human communication, the
Mm.
human interaction. And it's if you have a sales team or account team, technical team that deals with a customer on a day-to-day basis, ask them about the client. Say, hey, tell me about the client. Tell me about Mary. You know, ask or Steve, like tell me about what they do, and they can give you a lot more information about hey, this is why we like your company. You're there, you're responsive, you're open, you treat me like a human. And it's like, but you get some good concrete information that is nothing will replace a human connection. As much as we want to deal with AI to help us, nothing will replace the human connection. And then you could build on that, and you can work with that information that you get from the face-to-face times. Like, all right, we're very good on these accounts because we're responsive, we're there, and here are the metrics that we provided, and you can leverage that to help you with other accounts. And so I think just work as much as you can on the human connections up front.
Cool. So for example, if we are going to take this deeper, it's very important to know not just, for example, as in general, what happens in the online world business round on the online business type of businesses that collect emails and names. That's it. So do you think that there is a better way, for example, online businesses to do that? Like, for example, collecting maybe birth dates, for example, if there is like a certain client that might buy from you and you at least send them like a happy birthday email or something like that. This is the type of connection that we are talking about here, like a deeper connection beyond the basic the basic. It's basically kind of like one side connection, I guess, from the
Yeah,
business.
I always say relationships are two-way streets, personally and professionally. And it's you get in what you get into it, what you put out of it. So on the professional side, yeah, you say happy birthday, absolutely. If you're looking at it from LinkedIn, it's, if someone makes a post, put a comment on there and say, and puts not just, hey, great post, but put a little effort into it and respond and engage, because after maybe one post or three or 10, they're going to respond back, and you're going to build, and you're actually going to start to build an authentic relationship. But you got to invest. I always say go deep with your accounts, go deep with your relationships instead of trying to spray everywhere.
Mhm. Yeah. So from your experience, what do you think some of the best maybe tools, resources, or maybe even books that have helped you along the way to develop as an owner and within your business?
So I would definitely say the top two or three out of my mind is engaging in professional associations. I say find a couple of professional associations, one in your market. So if you're in marketing, find a professional association with marketing, so you can always stay on top of the latest trends and the latest tools. Usually, that is where you're going to get executives from across your industry to be a part of, and then find a professional association in your respected niche, because then you can really niche down. Say you're in the architecture. You really focus on architecture. Find a professional association in the architecture, because then you can really start to niche down and be like, all right, if I focus on digital media, digital marketing, and architecture, you'll meet all the decision makers in there. So I think that's one. The other one is, the Small Business Administration offers mentorship. I think getting senior level executives in mentorship can really help you. They've been around the block. I recommend getting mentors to really be able to help you. It's definitely helped me a lot. I think that is great. So I think those are probably the top two. And then I'm always reading articles. I'm trying to find the book. There is a book that I read. It's not coming to the top of my head, but I always read, magazines like the Harvard Business Review. I'm usually on that on the regular basis. There's a couple of followers I watch on LinkedIn, like Justin Welsh. I think he does a great job. So those are the ones I usually will recommend, just to be able to stay on top of my game.
Cool, cool. So what do you think is the would be the final takeaway for businesses to differentiate themselves in, like, let's say some kind of a steps one, two, three, as a quick clip.
So the first I mean, that's a great actionable set. The first three steps is to sit down with your team, definitely with your sales team. If you have a sales team, if not yourself, is to write down on a whiteboard or on a piece of paper why you, and try to figure out, like, why do companies want to work with us. If you have your sales team, or you have a sales engineering team or account team, write down why you, and put metrics to it. We have a response rate faster than 30% of the rest of the team. Great. Let people know that, and really be able to, because companies are probably coming to your website. They want to see those types of metrics. Numbers sell. So put that out there. So I say start to really be able to push on that, and be able to have deeper conversations with your existing clients. And that's how you can also build to referrals. Because your clients probably talk to other clients because they were interested. Hey, you know anybody else that might be interested in the type of work we currently do? You could refer out, because your differentiators will speak volumes from people who are already buying from you as well.
Yeah, definitely. That's very important because now we are living in a time and age, especially online, that people are bombarded with everything, with social media posts and with emails. So we need, as a business or entrepreneurs, we need to find a way to have a deeper connection with other people and personal one, I guess, because this is the way to go beyond and grow and scale a business.
Exactly. And I was talking to a friend of mine. She was a former Coast Guard executive. And I asked her, I said, if somebody emailed you or sent you a post on LinkedIn, would you pick up? She goes, absolutely not. Like, I get bombarded with them. I'm sick of them. Doesn't matter if they wrote on my page or whatever. She goes, and a lot of executives won't. It's like, but if it was a referral, she goes, yes, I will pick up. But I got to know why I'm picking up. What's going to make them different? I go, okay. And that is usually, but if you have a differentiator, that's going to help you get over the hurdle. Same thing with a big business. Same thing with somebody who's got a budget. They want to know, why you? Why am I going to spend time talking to this person? You know, it's you're going to make me money, you're going to save me money. Yeah, so that's like, build those differentiators so you can pack that punch.
Definitely, because it is a very competitive out there, and it is to me it's strange, me personally, why does let's say cold calling or cold emailing or cold whatever still works? Like I am the type of that in general get a few of those, but I don't really respond rarely respond unless I see maybe a benefit for me. So it's time now to actually do a deeper connection and a deeper work with other businesses and people, because eventually what certain business sends as a cold email or cold call, you can't find that yourself if you need it. So I don't know. So that's the case, maybe. So, Whitney, where can people learn more about you and get in touch with you, so and see what you do?
Sure. So you can reach out to me on my website. It's called Cribworks, Cribworks, cribworks.co. And then I'm on there. I also publish a weekly newsletter. Comes out every Monday. It's all about sales and business development advice. So I publish that every Monday as well. So that's where you can find me.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Whitney, thank you very much for being here with me on this episode of the Success Secret podcast. You, we talked about differentiators in business, and it is very important, in especially nowadays, because this is the way to grow a business. Because eventually, people in business with other people, not uh, I guess not material things. So this is how it's done. This is how it works because people work with people. Thank you very much for joining me for this one.
Hey, I really appreciate the time. Thank you very much.